Hi Anne, I'm here with Anne today. So can you tell me a bit about some of your professional roles that you've had and a bit about yourself and where you work now?
So I currently work at Manchester Metropolitan in the Department of Social Care and Social Work as a lecturer. That's a relatively recent role, but I have worked here for nearly 4 years. Previously to being a lecturer, I was an e-learning developer in the same department, so supporting staff across a range of our programmes with sort of their digitally enhanced learning offer.
Okay.
Previously to that, my background is actually in education rather than technology. So I started my career after university. I had a little bit of a crisis of confidence, wondering what I was going to do, and moved to Dubai for 4 years, where I worked in schools with children with special educational needs. So I supported Key Stage 2 and 3 children, and that really got me into education and seeing how a different education system works and how different needs are supported. Really sort of took me down that path. And then when I moved back to the UK, I joined an online adult education college where I was an assessor and tutor.
Right.
So I had up to 150 students at a time, supporting them through their programmes. But I was also the e-learning manager, so I was responsible for all of our e-learning offer as well, and making sure that all of our courses were updated and managing the product and that sort of thing as well.
So that sounds like you'll have worked with lots of different people, lots of different professionals, had lots of different types of colleagues.
Yeah.
And maybe had lots of systems that you had to be aware of and knowledgeable about and kind of interact with. Yeah. So can you think of a time where maybe in your interactions with people that you've worked with, say colleagues or other professionals, where something's maybe not gone to plan?
Yes, I mean there's several, but the one that comes to mind was actually when I was working in the school in Dubai. So an interesting point about education systems in Dubai to start with is there's no legal provision for children with special educational needs. Okay. It's all private education based, and schools can choose to take children with those needs or not. Mm-hmm. Our school was one of the few that did, so we had a very high percentage of children with special educational needs. So for instance, in one of the classes I worked with, I think there was 21 students and 9 of them had defined SEN statements and another 5 were being assessed. So quite a high level of need. So I worked with teachers, with SENCOs or the equivalent of SENCOs, with external staff who'd be supporting people with perhaps medical needs and things like that elsewhere, with behavioural specialists, all sorts of things. And the one that actually comes to mind, this was a Key Stage 2 boy who I supported outside of school as a tutor. Mm-hmm. And he had some quite complex learning needs. And his mum had said that she'd got permission from the school that I could go to him in some lessons and take him out of lessons to continue working on his maths at the time, and she gave me a list of lessons. So I looked at the timetable, saw when they went up, went down, took him out of a lesson. Thought it was all fine, not a problem. What I hadn't realised is I'd taken him out of Arabic.
Right.
And Arabic is a legal requirement in the United Arab Emirates. Every student has to participate in Arabic classes. And it led to quite a lot of issues in terms of him being removed. He was very happy to be out of Arabic. He hated Arabic. So he didn't raise it. But in terms of his class teachers, myself, his Arabic teachers, the SENCO, the head of year, everyone got involved in these conversations, and it became quite a big issue that if I'd have just asked a question of his teachers to say, which of these can I take him out of, rather than just taking what I've been told and going with it, you know, the differentiation between this is what his mum didn't mind him missing and this is legally what he can miss would have saved quite a lot of...
If you don't know what question to ask, you don't know what question to ask. It sounded like you were well-meaning in what you did. You were listening to what his mum had told you.
And I think that's the thing when it comes to communication, actually. Most of the time, misunderstandings happen with the best of intentions. You're trying to do what you think is right in that given situation for those given people. And sometimes it's about marrying your own beliefs with what's required. So this particular student, and this might be me speaking out of turn, but they were a white British family. Their plans were to move back to the UK when the employment contract was done. Yeah. This student had this boy had some very complex learning needs. He took nothing in of Arabic.
Right.
He he would basically sit there for the hour and do nothing, which is why Mum thought, well, it's okay for us to take him out then and do something a bit more productive with his time. And I agreed with her. But actually knowing that my values of thinking, well, actually, that is probably the best thing for him, didn't marry up with
what was required
and the procedures and the legal requirements, not just the school requirements. And that was my ignorance of not knowing that was how that worked. And again, it would have just been a simple question that would have saved a lot of time and a lot of effort for a lot of people.
So if you were in a similar situation again, what would you think about that you could do differently to try and avoid something like that happening?
I'd absolutely think about the other professionals involved in the situation who have more knowledge and more information than me or different perspectives than me. So I would absolutely have asked the questions of the class teacher and of the SENCO at least. And just asking that question would have got me the answer I needed.
So something about like checking out everybody who might have some involvement and not assuming that they're everyone's on the same page.
100%. Verifying the information that you're given. Even if it sounds like it's going to be correct and this is the thing to do, just double checking that with someone else who has a different perspective than you or more knowledge than you. I mean, this was my first few months on the role. I was still learning how the sort of international school system worked and navigating that. But I also think that you'll never stop learning those things. No. You'll never stop having to ask those questions because things might work slightly differently in different locations, different settings. Different schools might have had a different approach to that, or been able to work out, a different way around it.
And how was it resolved in the end?
It was actually resolved. Not really. I didn't have much to do with that because I was seen as just acting on what the parents had told me. It was actually resolved by bringing the parents in and having a conversation with them about that balance of the needs of their child versus the requirements of the school. And then there was some new guidance published to parents on specifically lessons like Arabic for non-Arabic speaking children because they were separated as well, and the importance of those lessons and why they had to be attended and why they should be supporting their children in those endeavours as well at home.
So it sounds like there was learning for you, but maybe some learning for the school in terms of kind of how they communicated with families and parents.
I think so. It was probably one of those cases where there weren't many parents who needed to be told that.
Right.
But there were probably a few. But rather than speaking to the few, it's probably easier to send out that guidance as a whole. And also looking at the roles of, the sort of special educational needs assistants like myself, and how we would work with class teachers, and specialist subject teachers like Arabic teachers as well. So I do know that after that, so sort of the SEN assistants wouldn't normally have gone into Arabic lessons, but after that they did start going into them for certain children depending on what their needs were. Whether or not that is still the case now, obviously it's several years later.
No, that's a really good example. Thank you for that, Anne.
No problem.